Super Mario Galaxy is one of the greatest masterpieces of all time. It's been almost 20 years since this game was released, but yet whenever I go back to this game, it feels like it was released just yesterday. If there's one 3D platformer people need to play, well, let me tell you, this is it. I'll probably get crucified for saying this, but I don't really enjoy 2D Mario games all that much. I just don't think most of them are all that fun to play. 3D Mario games, on the other hand, are an entirely different story. I can take or leave games like Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World, but Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy 1 and 2, Odyssey, now these games are, to me at least, why Mario is so good. And Galaxy 1 and 2 in particular are the titles that I personally think have aged better than not only most Mario games, but also most games just in general. Though for this video I'll of course mainly be focusing on the first one. Also, for the sake of ease and availability, I'll mostly be playing the 3D All-Stars version of Mario Galaxy. Yes, I know, the Wii version has slightly better controls, but the Switch version is just more convenient to play nowadays. So yeah. And so, as I already said and will likely keep saying, here we have one of Mario's greatest titles to date. Taking place in outer space and giving us the opportunity to travel throughout the galaxy and move across planets with their own centers of gravity, one of this game's big features that it tries to sell us is, of course, everyone's favorite, motion controls. I know a lot of people simply hate motion controls no matter how much of a role it plays, and to be honest, I'm not particularly fond of motion controls myself, but I think Mario Galaxy managed to pull it off quite well. It might take a little bit of getting used to, but unlike a lot of shovelware games that came out around the time, it doesn't actually suck. Quite the contrary, the motion controls are surprisingly good. I feel like a lot of games at the time simply shoehorned motion controls in for the sake of having motion controls, particularly shovelware games as I mentioned, which often resulted in a poor overall experience.
This is not good, straight up. I want to do it slightly. How do I do that? How do I do this shit? What the fuck is going on? What?
It was either too much work or was just an outright pain to control. Mario Galaxy, on the other hand, feels like the motion controls were specifically designed with the game in mind, and not just thrown in because motion controls were all the rage at the time. The new spin move here was a game changer. It feels so satisfying to perform and is often just what you need for that little extra bit of airtime to reach the next platform. Of course, it can also be used to stun and get rid of enemies, along with the good old-fashioned jump and ground pound. And although you can do the spin move by pressing X or Y on the 3D All-Stars version of Mario Galaxy, shaking the Joy-Con feels just as natural to me, albeit maybe not as natural as it feels on the Wii, but it's still fine. Another significant feature of the motion controls include being able to point at the screen, which you have to do to select your next level, traverse across the air with these blue stars, and collect these star bits, which have multiple purposes. They can be used as currency to unlock other galaxies and items, you can use them to stun certain enemies, and to gain an extra life if you collect 50 of them. Naturally, you can also collect the traditional yellow coins throughout the game, which are used to heal Mario by 1 point and also give you an extra life if you collect 50 of them. There's also a 2-player co-op mode for this, where one player controls Mario and the second player uses a Wii Remote or Joy-Con to control the pointer in order to collect star bits, stun enemies, and help Mario jump. I've never really played the 2-player co-op though, I much prefer playing through Mario Galaxy with just the single-player mode. Regardless, Mario Galaxy somehow manages to draw the perfect line between traditional platforming and the newly integrated motion controls. Even some of the weirder minigames like race surfing and ball rolling feel just right to control. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it's tight enough and doesn't feel like it overblows the motion controls to the point where if I fail, I feel like it's on me. And at the same time, they don't make my hands ache like I've been wrestling the eel for 5 hours straight, if you catch my drift.
Can you stop slapping your mate? What are you doing?
Though of course, the decent motion controls are merely one aspect of the game, and although I think it works well, there are so many other things about this game that make it amazing which I want to talk about. Like the music. This was the first Mario game to feature a full-blown orchestral soundtrack, and man is it good. Gusty Garden, Good Egg, Honeybee Kingdom, just to name a few, are absolute bangers, and I feel like this game's soundtrack has to this day had a lasting effect on how Mario games sound. This was also the introduction to Rosalina, one of my favourite Mario characters who doesn't actually do a whole lot in this game. She's just kinda there. She does have her own backstory through some of the interesting storybook chapters in the library, which was a first, but other than that she's only really there to kind of encourage Mario, I guess. Anyway, she's the one that gives you Luma, who grants you the goated spin move after Bowser kidnaps Peach, surprise surprise, with Kamek then knocking you off into outer space. After chasing some bunnies and a few explanations, we are thrown into one of the coziest hub worlds in gaming, the Comet Observatory. What first starts off as very quiet and mellow, then becomes something more grand and spacious the more power stars you collect. I've always loved the hub world in this game, and I've always wished I could just jump into the screen and explore it myself, but, well, a man can dream, I suppose. Personally, I don't think Mario has ever had any bad hub worlds, and although Isle Delfino is probably my favourite, this one is still great in my opinion. Scattered throughout are obviously all the different planets you can explore, located in domes that you unlock more of the more stars you collect. This is the standard Mario formula, of course, although the way it is handled and the level of freedom you get can vary depending on the game. For example, in Mario 64, in order to beat the game you need a total of 70 out of 120 stars, which gives you an immense amount of leeway and freedom to play around and essentially do whatever you want. If you don't like certain levels, you can just skip them and do the ones that you enjoy the most. Or you can play through the game once and complete it, and then on your next playthrough do the levels that you didn't do on your first playthrough, giving you a newer and fresher experience. This level of freedom is something that the next mainline 3D Mario game, Mario Sunshine, unfortunately lacked, because in that game you had to complete the 7th mission of each world in order to unlock Corona Mountain and beat the final boss, whereas like I said in Mario 64, all you needed was 70 out of 120 stars. Meaning you essentially can't skip any levels you don't like in Sunshine, like you could in 64. However, Mario Sunshine's base controls and camera are much better and smoother than Mario 64's, making it generally a more fluid all-around experience, even with some of the other problems that that game has. This is where Mario Galaxy shines in my opinion, because in a way it is essentially the best of both worlds, pun not intended. The controls and camera in Mario Galaxy are superior to Mario 64's, and just as good if not better than Sunshine's, and at the same time, you don't need to go out of your way to complete the 7th mission or whatever of each world in order to unlock the final boss with Bowser. You only need at least 60 stars out of 120 to finish the story, meaning you could essentially skip several worlds and missions if you don't want to play them. But the thing is, Mario Galaxy is so good that I don't want to skip what it has to offer. It is one of the few games that I thoroughly enjoy going out of my way to play in its entirety. I do not particularly like playing through some of the levels in Mario 64. I think many of them outright suck, and the wing cap controls like absolute crap, something that Galaxy improved upon. Even though they both do still ultimately suffer from being situational power-ups that you barely even use in either game, which is not limited to just this power-up, as pretty much every power-up in both games is very situational, but I'll get into more detail on that later. Either way, Mario 64, while still a great game, is not a game that has aged the greatest, no matter what anyone says. The camera can be a slop, turning can be quite finicky at times, and getting 100 coins to obtain a star can be an absolute pain in the ass in certain levels. And you know, you'd think that they'd learn from all of this and improve it with Mario Sunshine, and in many aspects they did, but in just as many others, they made it utter hell. Sunshine has some absolutely atrocious levels, most of which are thankfully optional. If you're only playing through the main story, then it is for the most part fantastic, but for some reason it also has some of the most diabolical shit you'll ever find in a video game. This stupid eel can go fuck itself, fuck this roller coaster, fuck this sandworm, and fuck 100% in this game. That is something that I will never ever do out of my own will, ever. Screw the watermelon level, fuck the pachinko machine, and fuck this stupid lily pad ride. Why is half of the process of this level simply getting there? And why is it such a pain in the ass? Why does the water instantly vaporize you? Why does this pipe take you back to the hub world? Why, Mario? Why? Why? I'm not gonna get into all the details here, but where Mario Sunshine lacks in fun replay value and content for 100% completion due to a lot of its mishaps and shitty levels that are an absolute slog, Mario Galaxy, for the most part, doesn't. This was the first Mario game I played where I actually enjoyed getting all 120 stars and doing everything that it has to offer. And to be frank, even if it wasn't enjoyable, at least the game actually rewards you for going out of your way to do so. You don't get anything cool for 100% complete in Mario Sunshine, and honestly even Mario 64 for that matter in my opinion. But in Mario Galaxy, not only is the journey actually fun, but you also get a really neat reward. The One Piece, Luigi. At the time, this was a super cool reward, especially because not only was Luigi up to that point not playable in any mainline 3D Mario game, but he didn't even have any proper screen time either, not counting games like Luigi's Mansion, which was quite odd. Get all 120 stars in Mario Galaxy though, and boom, our favorite Green Boy is finally playable. The novelty immediately wore off after Galaxy 2 came out unfortunately, since he's playable after getting 30 stars in that game. But regardless, I still think it's a much better reward than what we got in the previous two mainline games, as well as many that came after it. And he's not just a measly copy and paste of Mario either. He's able to jump further and higher than Mario, but has worse traction and runs out of breath much faster when he's underwater. Even if Mario Galaxy had shit like the stupid pachinko machine, or if the flying controls were as crap as the wing cap in 64, which it doesn't, then at least going out of your way to get all the power stars would have been worth a damn. Some people will argue that, technically it's not 100% since you have to play through the game again as Luigi in order to get the 241st star, which I guess that's fair enough, but I disagree. I believe unlocking Luigi is the true reward that you get in Mario Galaxy, all things considered. With all of that said, going back to what I mentioned earlier, I think one of the main downsides of Mario Galaxy is the power-ups. Most of them are fun, don't get me wrong, but they're either too situational, or they're the fire and ice flowers, which are also situational, but also disable your spin jump and can only be used for like 20 seconds. And although all the other power-ups disable the spin jump as well, at least they all have unique abilities that actually make up for it, like being able to fly with the B power-up, hover with the Boo power-up, and jump really high with the strangest power-up in the game, the weird spring thingy. Now personally, I don't hate this one like a lot of people do, but I don't love it either. It's just, I don't know, a bit wacky. In any case, I can kinda see why they gave the Ice and Fire Flowers a time limit, because otherwise the game would likely be way too easy. But surely there was a way around this. Maybe make the enemies stronger and the Ice and Fire Flowers weaker or something like that? I don't know. But my point is that I'd rather they balance the Ice and Fire Flowers to accommodate the difficulty, rather than giving them a time limit, especially when it's an incredibly short one as it is here. I mean, if all the other power-ups, as situational as they also are, were able to work without a time limit, then I think they surely could have found a way to make the Fire and Ice Flowers work without one as well. I don't know. Regardless, this does not take away from the experience as a whole. I truly believe that Mario Galaxy is a game that's as close to perfection as a game can get. Even some of the more difficult and tedious stars to obtain, such as the minigame where you have to blow up some trash within the time limit, which does fucking suck actually, or Luigi's purple coins, which is arguably the hardest level in the game, are both an absolute far cry from some of the tedious stuff that you have to deal with in Mario Sunshine, for example. And despite the fact that the levels are more linear than they are in a lot of other Mario games, particularly, 64, Sunshine, Odyssey, they are still loads of fun and have many of their own unique minigames and objectives that make them just as enjoyable in my opinion. Like several of the hidden stars, the Cosmic Mario/Luigi races, and the purple coin missions, which are kinda like the 100 coin missions in Mario 64, only nowhere near as irritating in my opinion. I don't like the ones in Battle Rock, Dreadnoughts, and Ghostly Galaxies, but other than those, there is a world of difference between some of the 100 coin missions in Mario 64 and the purple coin missions in Mario Galaxy, again, pun not intended. Another thing about this game that always amazes me considering it came out in 2007 is the graphics. Now, of course, I don't care about graphics as much as I care about gameplay, but there's still no denying the visual representation and art style here, considering it came out on the underpowered Wii. Even comparing it to the Switch release, it still looks mighty impressive for its time. This game truly fires on all cylinders. I feel like there is so much more that can be said about this game, but I don't want to end up rambling on and making this video longer than it needs to be, so yeah. I think I'll wrap it up here with this final note. Out there are games that were undeniably brilliant for their time and revolutionized gaming, but that are now a slop to play. Mario Galaxy, on the other hand, was not only brilliant for its time, but is also still to this day an amazing experience from start to finish. You could sell me the Wii with just this game, and I would be more than satisfied. That's genuinely just how much of a masterpiece this game is. It is beyond sensational. There are very few 3D platformers in my opinion that are on the level of Mario Galaxy, and if you haven't played it yet, well, you know exactly what to do.